I love Arin. I think he's an awesome character and one of the best that Dragon's Rising has introduced into the main cast, and a large part as to why has to do with what he represents. Ninjago finally took the leap of bringing a ninja who doesn't have an elemental power onto the team, which already is such a massive step in the right direction for Ninjago, and throughout the first season of Dragon's Rising, we get to see that Arin's lack of elemental powers is a real driving force for his character, and unlike his comrades, he won't ever get the powers he so desperately wants, which is so refreshing. We finally have an honest take on the powers don't make a hero message that the show has been trying to drill into us for years at this point. Arin's concept and very basic characterization alone was more than enough to get me on board with his character, but come Dragon's Rising Season 2, they take him to new heights never before seen by this franchise. Arin's Season 2 story about slowly becoming disillusioned with his friends and childhood heroes, going so far as to leave all of them behind to camp out with one of the most dangerous people in the merged lands, is some brilliant stuff, and on its own stands as one of the strongest character arcs that Ninjago has to offer. Seeing Arin's self-doubt and unwillingness to accept change consume him to the degree that it does really sets the stage for his Season 3 content, and sets up his dynamic with Raz perfectly, setting up how they're similar to each other before stranding them in a desolate land together away from everyone else, a place where Raz can finally start to harvest those seeds of doubt that he placed into Arin's mind during the tournament. Season 3 puts us right where we left off, with Arin learning to give into his hatred to achieve a proper Spinjitzu tornado and trying to help an injured Raz. There's certainly an argument to be made that he should absolutely know how to do Spinjitzu after the events of Season 2. However, whenever he used it, it was right after or during a really high stress moment for him, so I think having him train on it when he's a bit more in the moment and while he's full of doubt, guilt and other negative emotions was a really smart move to show his inner conflict. The conflict at play in the scene as a whole is really interesting to me, because it's Arin's kindness that gets him the food from the people that he meets in the First Lands, but ultimately it's Raz's teachings that gets him what he believes he needs in the long run, that being a proper Spinjitzu tornado. As they train on the way to the Spectral Lands, we get our first insights as to what drives Raz to do what he does, the desire to bring his people back from the dead. This is a great way to draw even more parallels between Arin and Raz, with some really interesting implications for their relationship. Raz is someone who is very quick to throw people away when they show weakness and he judges that they're no longer useful to him, but Raz being injured and recovering throughout all of part 1 makes the Raz and Arin dynamic a very codependent one, and Raz himself recognizes this. Whenever any of Raz's quote-unquote weaknesses, such as his entire species being wiped out or the injuries that are causing him a slow death are brought up, he always deflects onto what this means for Arin to keep him around, that being his strengths as a master. Both of their families being gone means that Raz is relatable enough to Arin that he can move past his childhood heroes being ridiculed by his new master, and Raz's injuries mean that Arin's chances of finding his parents are slowly getting lower and lower by the second. This essentially forces Arin to use his anger and hatred as a means to keep moving forward to the merged lands to find the elixir that can heal Raz. As they get to the Spectral Lands, Arin runs into a departed ninja who later reveals himself to be an old student of Wu, the man who's caused Arin's parents to disappear. We obviously know him as Morrow, and with this knowledge in mind, we can draw some interesting parallels between the two of them. Both Morrow and Arin were promised great things at very formative ages, and were never able to truly meet the colossal expectations placed upon them. This led both of them to finding masters who could theoretically offer them what they want. Obviously these are some pretty surface level parallels, but the time these two share together does a brilliant job of building off of what ground they have in common. Arin has had the idea drilled into him that the concept of a hero has no real meaning. His childhood heroes completely failed him on every imaginable front, and the one who taught them everything is the very man who took everything from Arin. Raz knows this and has used it to his advantage, stating that the term hero is incredibly subjective, and all things considered, he is right. History is decided by the victors, and it's incredibly easy for the wrong people to be presented as heroes, and for those who oppose them as villains. While the ninja have been saving the world for who knows how long now, Arin is a byproduct of all of their failures, and all of the problems in his life are traceable back to Wu, someone who is considered a hero by many. After the events of Season 2, that word had lost any and all meaning it could hold to Arin, until Morrow came along. Their similar paths allow them to bond over their histories with masters and doing the right thing, and Morrow going so far out of his way to help others by denying himself eternal peace despite his bad experiences really left Arin with the feeling that he can do better, and he can be the hero he wants to be. Morrow is such an essential part of Arin not losing himself on the quest to find his parents, because he gives Arin a goal to strive for, and in the long run is a key player in his character arc without overstaying his welcome, which is something I was very worried about going into Season 3. free. The next time we see these two, Raz is visibly better, though still recovering from his injuries, and finds a means of transport to reach Arin's parents as quickly as they can. On their way, they come across a village clearly ravaged by the might of the Five, and Arin being Arin makes the call to go down and help them, but Raz shoots the idea down immediately. For so long, Arin has been trying to harmonise with the motion of the universe and trying to go with the flow, hoping that the world around him will harmonise and give him the results that he wants. This evidently hasn't worked out though, since the world around him has not given him the results he wants, and going with the flow in this situation would completely distract from their main mission of finding Arin's parents, so as per Raz's teachings, they power through. It's almost nature versus nurture-esque, which is really interesting to me. It's in Arin's nature to want to help the people around him even if it sabotages his own goals, but it's constantly going against Raz's teachings, giving Arin a constant inner conflict about what to do with any given situation. When they make it to where Arin's parents are supposed to be though, his mindset completely changes, because all they find are graves, and amongst them are the graves of his parents, Barry and Jenny. This moment is one of the most important scenes in Arin's entire story, and defines very clearly where his story is going next, because I think this is the moment that he completely radicalizes to Raz's side. It's important to remember that until now, Arin's goal was not to reverse the merge. He certainly wasn't against the idea because it would undo the chaos that Master Wu had brought upon the world, but he was only allied with Raz at this point to find his parents and nothing else. This moment, however, where he sees the graves of his parents, along with Raz's speech about reversing the merge, is what fully brings him over to Raz's side. Raz saying that he has the means to bring his parents and his own tribe back to life, along with the fact that he's the only one who could comfort Arin in this moment, leads Arin to believing Raz is the only person capable of understanding his pain, and subsequently, capable of bringing his parents back from the dead. The similarities between their situations and the fact that Raz has proven himself in the past to be a trustworthy source of information means that Arin has no reason not to believe what he's saying here, leading him to agreeing to help him reverse the merge. As they continue to train, there is almost no hesitation in Arin's mind when it comes time to channeling his anger in training, and as they travel to the temple, Arin is able to use his object spin jutsu on command without a second thought, which I think is a really interesting bit of visual storytelling to 1, show that Raz's teachings do in fact work, and 2, to show how far Arin is down this path, now being able to pull off a technique that blinded Eagle with ease. Their arrival at the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores and Raz's subsequent torturing of the spirit for information is the only time we really see Arin place any doubt in Raz after the graves, but this feels like a very human reaction from Arin. While decidedly going down the path of strength and reversing the merge like Raz, he hasn't really been confronted with what that entails yet, including hurting people to get what they need. Raz once again seeing the doubt in his pupil's mind reminds him of what's at stake, telling him that on their journey they're going to have to hurt people and make difficult decisions to accomplish their goal, something that Arin has to immediately apply when the mountain dragons don't just let him leave with Raz. This moment is really powerful as a whole, and one of the highlights for Arin's story. Arin immediately falls back to his old ways, trying to use his kindness to get them out of their predicament, but rather than it coming across as genuine, he uses his kindness more as a tool to get what he wants, trying to remind the mountain dragons of his kindness so that they forgive Raz's actions, which is some really satisfying payoff to Raz saying that people act in their own self-interest and not kindness. Using his status for mountain dragons as a point of leverage, alongside the spirit calling he and Raz villains, really makes Arin think about his place in the world, especially after Morrow gave the word hero such a strong meaning, and he just can't see himself fitting that definition. Raz reminds Arin that their mission isn't going to win them any favours, and to an extent I think he's absolutely right about this. Arin didn't embark on the quest with Raz to win people's favour, he did it out of desperation to find his parents and rebuild his life. Arin wanting to be liked by everyone and to have his family back are two completely contradictory goals at this point in time, and trying to make these two clashing ideas work together is only going to slow them down. After this, they have their run-ins with the Ninja and the Forbidden Five, putting Arin in a position where he needs to ally himself with the Ninja if he wants to get Raz back and reverse the merge. This ties back to the whole idea that you need to take what you need from life, and once again is a case of Arin using others to achieve goals that are in his own self-interest. While at the monastery, Arin gets a moment to really take a moment and chat with Sora, where they both apologise to one another for the first time since the tournament, but it's also the first time that Raz's strength ideology is really put into question by the people around Arin. Sora tells Arin that his strength doesn't come from his hate or his anger, but his kindness and hope, and that despite their shortcomings in training and their falling out, at the end of the day they will always have each other, and I think that's the key difference between Raz and Arin that this part highlights. They may both want their families back, and they may both want to be stronger, But despite everything, Arin has people looking out for him and companions who care about him. Raz and Arin didn't make it as far as they did because of how much hate they had in their hearts or the strength they had, but because of the kindness the people around them had shown towards them. Notable examples of this are the mountain dragon saving Arin, Morrow getting the elixir, and now the ninja wanting to help Arin get Raz back. And when it comes time for Arin to defeat Thunderfang, he comes to this exact conclusion himself, channeling his positive emotions to get the elixir through the winds of chaos and defeating Thunderfang to send him to the Spectral Lands. At the end of the day, it wasn't his strength that got him this far, it was hope. Hope that he could find his parents, hope that he could save Raz, and hope that the people around him would understand why he did the things he's done. Arin's hope has been the driving force of their entire quest so far, and without it they would never have made it past the Spectral Lands. It's been his driving strength from the start, and despite the circumstances he's been placed in, it's driven him to do the best he can in any given situation. While Arin does need to stick with Raz to reverse the merge and bring his parents back, he's now doing it with his best friend, because his hope has not only inspired him, but those around him. As they journey through the first realm of Mysterium, tensions run high within the team as it's clear that Sora and Raz just don't get along at all, which makes sense, but it is noteworthy that Raz seems to be back in top form after spending all of Part 1 injured. As they reach their destination of the Underworld, however, things take a turn for the worst. The Casket of Bone sequence is one of the most interesting things to come out of Dragons Rising as a show, I think. Arin and Sora are thrown into a land where strength is the guiding principle, making it the perfect location for Arin's big moral decision moment to take place in. This moment where Arin has to choose between Sora and the dragon icon, and by extension his parents, absolutely feels like it's what his arc was building to. So far, Arin hasn't really had to make any huge decisions. Sure, he had to leave behind the farmers and accept that they would have to hurt people on their quest, but this is the first time that they really needed to get their hands dirty and kill someone in the pursuit of their goal. And Raz has been slowly building Arin's strength and breaking down his morality for this exact moment. Torturing the spirit, abandoning and betraying people he cares about, were all small moments to build Arin to this exact moment where he has to sacrifice Sora. Raz reminding Arin of his parents and the fact that he's never steered him wrong is very reminiscent of when he first said he knew where Arin's parents were, and really helps add to the intensity of the scene because it really is now or never. One thing in particular that I really want to touch on with this scene is when Raz says he's turned Arin into a warrior, which is what characters throughout the show have referred to Cinder as, and this is where everything kind of clicked for me. While Raz was making Arin a better fighter and helping him get his skills up, it's been said by multiple characters in the show that that's not what makes a good ninja, and this scene proves them right. Raz's path was never the one Arin wanted to walk down, and this scene has Raz blatantly admit that his intentions were never to train Arin to be a ninja, but to become a warrior like him, making this a real mask-off moment for Raz. The moment that seals where this partnership is going though is when Raz tells Arin to have the strength to save his family. Throughout the season, Arin's been learning about what true strength means from a load of different people, like Raz, Morrow, Sora, and Thrak. From them, he's been able to draw his own conclusion as to where his own strength lies, and it's from the people around him, who he inspires with his hope and good traits. From the start, Arin and Sora have had each other as a source of strength, compensating for each other's weaknesses, and as said before, Arin and Raz would never have made it as far as they did if it weren't for the kindness and generosity of others, which includes Sora accompanying them on their quest. Arin being told to have the courage to do what needs to be done and to have the strength to save his family includes standing up to Raz in this moment, and remembering the words of all of the people who have helped him get this far on their quest. The ensuing fight between Arin, Sora, and Raz is once again another great showing of the two of them needing each other to win, because it's with their combined skill that they defeat Raz and escape the Forge of the Forgotten, and Arin breaking down as soon as they get out of the underworld is really heartbreaking. The reason Arin could never really progress on the motion-based teachings was because he was so hung up on wanting to get things back to the way they quote-unquote should be by finding his parents. Throughout the show, we get to see where Arin's obsession with him not accepting change leads, and this moment at the casket is where he finally accepts that things won't go back to how they were, no matter who or what he sacrifices to get there. No matter how strong he gets, no matter how many relationships he sacrifices, he has to accept that he can't fight the universe, and even under Raz's strength ideology, he can't save everyone. Arin breaking down after accepting that his parents will be gone forever is such a powerful moment, and is such a narratively satisfying conclusion for a story with Raz to come to. Obviously after this he does get his parents back and kills Thunderfang again, but who really cares about all that?
Well, I'm really not at liberty to say.
No, but in all seriousness, I think the stuff that comes afterwards, while not as potent or even as well written as what came before, has some pretty good stuff in there, even if his parents should have stayed dead, but that's a topic for another time. I think it's time to very quickly touch on Arin and Lloyd's relationship, even if it isn't explored as much as it could have been this season. Arin reuniting with Lloyd and having them come to terms with each other's shortcomings as student and master feels like a direct reference to Wu and Morrow's story, but whereas both sides fail to see where they went wrong in the past, Arin and Lloyd actually communicate with one another and fix the mistakes of those who came before them. Lloyd had always pushed Arin to be the best, but it led him to making promises under false pretenses, not fully realizing the weight they held, just like Master Wu. Arin, on the other hand, completely lost his head when he couldn't live up to those expectations placed upon him, leading him down a similar path to Morrow. However, much like how Arin is similar to Raz yet avoids going down the same path of him, the same holds true for Morrow and by extension Lloyd and Wu. Arin and Lloyd taking the time to recognise their own faults and actually work to improve on them during the Archdragon battle is some really clever payoff to their master-student dynamic that Lloyd and Arin have had going between them this season, and I think it's a nice way to bookend their student-master dynamic until season 4 inevitably does a bit more with it. With that being said, that's pretty much the last thing I really have to say about Arin's season 3 story, so I think it's time to really conclude this whole thing. Arin's story has been a really interesting tale about generational trauma in my opinion, and avoiding the same mistakes of the people who came before. Whereas Arin's story in season 2 shows us how he and Raz are similar to each other, season 3 is all about Arin figuring out who he is and what he wants out of life, without Lloyd or Raz telling him what he has to do. This being achieved by having Arin figure out what his source of strength is by having him bounce off of various characters was such a brilliant move in my opinion, and I'm really hoping that the lessons he took across his journey are applied to his dynamic with Lloyd next season. Even if I would have liked for Arin and Raz to stay together longer, what we got was really good and paid off the setup from the past 2 seasons wonderfully. I am super excited to see where they go with it in season 4, and I am really hoping that Euphrasia being there is part of their plan to have him bounce off of various characters and not indicative of some romance plot. With all that being said though, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. If you do want to talk about Ninjago with other fans, consider joining my Discord server, the Digiverse. There's a link on screen now and there should be one in the description of this video. There will also be links to Brutality in all of the same places. If you enjoyed the Raz and Arin stuff in season 3, Brutality builds off of all of that really naturally and goes a lot further with some of the ideas from season 2 than the show does, so I'd absolutely recommend giving it a read if you want a slightly more mature take on the Raz and Arin plotline. Only if you're 13 and up though, it does handle some darker themes and is absolutely not for kids. With all of that being said though, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you all soon when I decide to make another one of these. Goodbye for now. God, Arin season 3 stuff is actually so good too, man. So, it's such a shame that they ended the bulk of it on a random episode 14 afternoon.
You feel tired, look at yourself. Inside your heart you will find a special place.